cheva shadvidham. So this was the fourth verse. Then last time we discussed about these things. There are three categories of devotees. Now you are in the association of devotees. Now we should know who are these three people. There is a Kanishta Adhikari, there is a Madhyam Adhikari, there is a Uttam Adhikari. So last time we discussed from different scriptures as per Bhagavatam point of view and Chaitanya Chaitamrit point of view. We discussed how different categories have been mentioned. Who is a Kanishta, who is a Madhyama, who is a Uttama. Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyate dikshasti chaitranitibhischa bhajantamisham शुश्रूषया भजन विक्रमनन्यमन्या निंदादिशून्यहिदमीप्सित संगलब्ध्या. One should always be desiring. Ipsita means to desire. One should have this strong desire in his heart that I want to associate with a personality whose bhajan is very strong, who is very advanced in bhakti. He doesn't have anything in his life just to serve Krishna. And he doesn't offend anyone, he doesn't blaspheme anyone. Actually, it is mentioned in scriptures the more one gets qualities of bhakti in his heart, the more devotional qualities one gain. Slowly, everyone starts becoming attracting to him. People get attracted to him because of the qualities the person possesses. So some of the qualities are mentioned in this verse also. Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, there are many other qualities of devotees which are mentioned. Shushrooshaya, Shushrooshaya means one should try to perform some service to him. Service doesn't mean only physical service, like going physically and doing some service. Service can be performed mentally also, and service can be performed in separation also. When the personality is not present here, and then we can serve in separation of him also. But in a humble mode, we can serve him. Bhajana Vigya, because he is very advanced in bhakti, he has a direct connection with the Supreme Lord. His remembrance is more than us. So in his prayers, we come. The great devotees' prayer. If we come in the prayers of the great devotees, that's a benefit for us. Krishneti yasya giritam. Any person who one should mentally honor a person who is chanting the holy name of the Lord, who has just started chanting, or one can say like a person who has been initiated. First initiation has been done. Prabhupada got Prabhupada got both the initiation at the same time only. Prabhupada was initiated like he was given Harinam Diksha also and Brahman Diksha also. Dikshasti chet pranitibhischa bhajantam yesham. And the person who has gained a Diksha, like the second initiation in our scenarios, pranitibhis, one should offer obeisances, humble obeisances to him. So this verse we discussed, one should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of the Lord Krishna. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation and is engaged worshipping the deity. And one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated, ananyam, anya, nindadi, and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. Nindadi shunya. There is nothing in his heart for anyone's, he doesn't do any blasphemy to any devotee. In this way, this verse we discussed last time. So coming back today, so we are discussing text number 6. So I will recite this verse 3 times. Then some of you can recite. One Mataji, one Prabhuji, or two Matajis, two Prabhujis can recite. Drishte svabhava janite vapuchascha dosher na prakritatvam iha bhakta janasya pashet gangavasam na khalu buddhapena pankher brahma dravatvam apagacchati nirdharme दृष्ट्वे स्वभावजनिते वपुचश्च दोषे न प्राकृतत्वम् इह भक्तजनस्य पश्येत् गङ्गावसं न खलु बुद्बुदफेन पङ्खे ब्रह्म ध्रुवत्वम् अपगच्छति नीरधर्मै. So I will recite one more, then you can recite. You can right now also recite, but after that you can unmute and recite. दृष्ट्वे स्वभावजनितैर्वपुषश्च दोषे न प्राकृतत्वम् इह भक्तजनस्य पश्ये गङ्गाम्बसां न खलु बुद्बुदफेण पङ्के ब्रह्मद्रवत्वमपगच्छति नीरधर्मे. So someone can recite this verse.
दृष्टै स्वभाव जनितेर वपुषश्च दोषै न प्राकृतत्वम् इह भक्त जनस्य पश्येत् गंगाम्बसं न कलौ बुद्बुदपेन पंकैर् ब्रह्म द्रवत्वम् अवगच्छति नीरधर्मै.
Anyone else?
हरे
Krishna Prabhuji. दृष्टैः स्वभावजनितैर्वपुषाश्च दोषैः न प्रकृत्वम् इह भक्तजनस्य पश्येत् गंगां भसां न खलु बुद्बुदफेन पङ्कैर् ब्रह्माद्रवातम् अपगच्छति नीरधर्मै. हरे कृष्ण.
Okay, some Matajis can recite.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु. दृष्टे स्वभावजनितैर्वपुषश्च दोषैर् न प्रकृतत्वम् इह भक्तजनस्य पश्येत् गङ्गामभासं न खलु बुद्बुदाफेन पङ्कैर् ब्रह्मद्रवत्वम् अपगच्छति नीरधर्मे.
Now that you have learned the verse previously only. Very nice.
Sorry, Prabhuji.
Anyone else? You have learned the verse earlier only.
No, Prabhuji. Now only I'm reading.
No, only. Wow.
With
First time
your
reading such a...
recitation.
Okay, great. Anyone else want to recite? One Mataji?
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
दृष्टै स्वभावजनितैर्वपुषश्च दोषैर् न प्राकृतत्वमिह भक्तजनस्य पश्येत् गङ्गाम्बशां न खलु बुद्बुदफेन पङ्कैर् ब्रह्माद्रवत्वमपगच्छति नीरधर्मै.
Thank you, Mataji. Drishtai, seeing by ordinary vision. This word is very important because actually to know the philosophy is okay. Like you can know the philosophy by so many scriptures you can read or so many videos you can watch. And nowadays, wisdom is becoming viral, as Jay Shetty Prabhu says. So many things you can know. But this three words, Drishte Sabhava Janite, Vapushascha Doshe, one should not find any faults with any devotees based on his ordinary vision. So the vision has to be improved. Drishte, because we have these eyes and we see and perceive by these eyes only, and whatever we gather information by these senses only. So our senses are limited, as you have heard from Prabhupada lectures and all other lectures also. We have limited capacity to gain the transcendental knowledge because we have sometimes the ordinary vision to see spiritual things. So spiritual objects and spiritual personality should not be seen by ordinary vision. Drishte Sabhav Janite Vapushas. Vapushas is the body. So there might be many doshas in the body. Vapushascha doshe. You can see some faults in the body of some great personality. So translation says being situated, Prabhupada actually gives a lot of purport in his translation only. You will see this. Being situated in his original Krishna conscious position, a pure devotee does not identify with the body. So he is speaking from the perspective of pure devotee. Such a devotee should not be seen from a materialistic point of view. So now he is telling about Drishte Swabhav Janite. One should not see a pure devotee because he is situated in original Krishna consciousness. A materialistic point of view should not be imposed on him. Indeed, one should overlook a devotee's having a body born in a low family, a body in a bad complexion, a deformed body, or a diseased or infirm body. So he tells about different bodily doshas which we might see in some devotee's life. According to ordinary vision, Sabhav Janite, ordinary vision, Such imperfections may seem prominent in the body of a pure devotee. So there might be some circumstances that you might see some deformations or some imperfections in the body of a pure devotee. But despite such seeming defects, the body of a pure devotee cannot be polluted. So actually, famous example comes from the life of Bhishma. His conscience was so great while at the leaving when he was leaving his body. He was lying in that shaya. A lot of arrows were there in his body, but he was waiting for Krishna. When Krishna will come and he will see him, he was waiting, and war has already over, but he was waiting for that vision. He has seen Krishna on the battlefield when Krishna and Arjuna were there on the chariot. But his Prabhupada writes there that his conscience was so sound that he welcomed everyone when everyone came and was seeing Bhishma on that. Everyone was feeling like how Bhishma is suffering in that condition. But he revealed his consciousness that how he respected everyone and how he was focused to see Krishna at that time. Similarly, such imperfections may seem prominent in the body of a pure devotee. But despite such seeming defects, the body of a pure devotee cannot be polluted. It is exactly like the water of the Ganges. So where does this verse is? Gangam Vasam Nakhalu Buddha Panke. So Mother Ganges is mentioned here. It is exactly like the water of the Ganges, which sometimes during the rainy season are full of pebbles. Oh, sorry, full of bubbles, foam, and mud. I remembered pebbles because here in Yamuna we have pebbles, and when I clean, there are in GV we have Yamuna, so there are a lot of pebbles in that, and we sometimes put because Maharaj told us to put pebbles. So just remember that. So Ganges, which sometimes during the rainy season are full of bubbles, foam, and mud. So if you have been to Rishikesh and Haridwar, although the current of Ganga is so pure and it's so worshipable, but sometimes in the rainy season, the all the dust which is there in the forest nearby, it comes to the Ganges, and lot of bubbles become formed there, and foam is there, and mud, the water becomes very muddy. But at the end of the rainy season, again the water becomes very crystal clear. So the Ganges water do not become polluted. And also, if you see, so many people take bath there, use so many things which should not be used because Ganges is very pure, worshipable, coming from the lotus feet of Supreme Lord. But so many people do so many things there. Sometimes people go as a picnic also there. So it's not a good habit. Prabhupada always used to say whenever we should go to some holy place, we should hear the glories of that holy place from some devotee's mouth. So in this way, Ganges waters do not become polluted. So a devotee will go there, take some ashman and put it in his mouth also as a worshipable water. Those who are advanced in spiritual understanding will bathe in the Ganges without considering the condition of the water. So here the verse was saying, Brahma dravattam apagacchati nir dharme Vaime ananyaya vishaya matir madhu prate sakrit. Kunti Maharani prays that as Ganges flow in different directions, passing through different stones and reaches to the Ganga Sagar, similarly my conscience should also flow like Ganges. Although there will be many distractions and many problems will come, but my consciousness should flow in a way like the Ganges flow. So Ganges is mentioned in many places. Today morning also we were discussing that how the association of great devotees is more aspired than even taking bath in the water of Ganga. A person who takes regular bath in the water of Ganga will get some purification in a due course of time. But a person who associates with a pure devotee, his advancement will be much more because he's associating with a devotee who is carrying Krishna in his heart. So here the comparison is also given in terms of pure devotee and Mother Ganga. So a person should not judge a pure devotee based on his bodily identification, and a devotee should not also judge Ganga being impure or polluted because of some bubbles or foam or mud. So in this way, this comparison is given. So let us go deeper into the this purport. You can see the word file. I've just selected some points in that, and I have did some editing and made some highlight in those purport points. Shuddha Bhakti is performed in a liberated condition. So, Prabhupada has written paragraph on this, but I have just selected this theme. Shuddha Bhakti is performed in a liberated condition. So there, till the time we reach that condition, at once transcends the modes of material nature. Sa guna samadhiyeta brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Thus comes to the level of Brahman. So at the level of Brahman, this bhakti can be performed in a Shuddha way. Shuddha bhakti can be performed. A person engaged in devotion must be free from and their consciousness. A person who is inclined to perform more material activity is into the material consciousness. And such kind of consciousness will see a devotee practicing sincerely as mere waste of time. Again, Bhagavad to be either you have to be fully Krishna conscious, and being Krishna conscious perform your duties, or a person will be drowned in the material consciousness. Liberation means performance of bhakti in an unalloyed, uncontaminated state. Anyone remembers which verse is this? Prabhupada is. If you see many of the translations of Prabhupada or many of the purports of Prabhupada are actually verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. Any verse you can recollect that Bhakti Yoga is an unalloyed, uncontaminated state, performance of Bhakti Yoga. Savai pumso paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhukshaje ahetuki apratihata yatma suprasidati. You have heard about this? What's happening? So, in this way, a person who sincerely practices bhakti is a liberated platform. One has to see in this vision. So devotees see in this vision, the of your pure devotees walking by us. So we see in this vision that he's a liberated person, or any devotee who is practicing sincerely, he's on a liberated condition. Just the vision is matter. Vision is the matter. Krishna's devotee is not subjected to material condition, even though his bodily features may appear materially conditioned. So Prabhupada will now focus on this theme, on bodily features of a pure devotee. One should therefore not see a pure devotee from a materialistic point of view, unless one is actually a devotee. This line is very important. Nice. Unless one is actually a devotee, he cannot see another devotee perfectly. Like we have mentioned in the previous verse about different adhikaris, Kanishta adhikari, Madhyam adhikari. Adhikari means that he has a adhikar to perform devotional service. He has become a Kanishta adhikari. He cannot distinguish between a devotee and a non-devotee, and he's simply thinking that Supreme Lord is there, my connection is there with him. But these devotees in between, I don't have any relationship. So such kind of thinking is on a Kanishta level, but he's performing some bhakti. So he's a Kanishta adhikari. But unless one is actually a devotee of the Supreme Lord, he cannot see another devotee perfectly. Madhyam adhikari is that personality who can distinguish between a devotee and non-devotee, and as well as between the devotee and the Lord. And he has a good relationship with all the devotees. So in this way, they are categories. No one should criticize the bodily defects of a pure devotee. If there are such defects, they should be overlooked. So actually, it requires a little strong, little intense practice of bhakti to overlook such defects. It doesn't happen in one day or 2 days. When person slowly hears about the glories of such devotees who are practicing sincerely, even after having such defects, or their consciousness is so elevated, and we are aspiring for such consciousness, but a person, he might be having such defects in his body, but his consciousness is very much pure than us, then such defects should be overlooked. Because ultimately in Krishna consciousness, whether we are black, whether we are white, whether we are good looking or not, or whether we are in this ashram or that ashram, anywhere, in any country, only thing which is mattering is how we are maintaining our consciousness. So such defects or such consideration of country, caste or anything is should be overlooked. So in this way, Prabhupada speaks. What should be taken into account is the spiritual master's main business. What should be taken into account is the spiritual master's main business. What is the spiritual master's main business? Is to glorify Supreme Lord Krishna and to glorify Srila Prabhupada, and which is devotional service, pure service to the Supreme Lord. And Bhagavad Gita also clarifies this. Api jetso sudracharo bhajate mam ananya bhag sadhureva samantavya. The person should be considered as sadhu. Even some abominable activities he might have performed before, or he might be struggling to overcome those. But if he is struggling, then we should respect his struggle. In this way, he should be sadhur eva samantavya. So this is the duty of our devotee community, that whoever is struggling, we should try to uplift him, try to encourage him. In other words, he is not to be considered an ordinary human being. Like Bhagavad Gita says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhai. There are very few people who endeavor on this path. And if a sincere person is trying to endeavor on this path, we should respect him. He should not be considered as an ordinary human being walking on the street. Birth, Prabhupada emphasizes on this topic now. Even though a pure devotee may not be born in a Brahmana or a Goswami family, and Prabhupada had a lot of struggle, even in Vrindavan when he was establishing temple, Krishna Balaram temple, and all his followers were foreigners. So Prabhupada actually mentioned some of his struggles in an indirect way in this purport only. We will read out. So if he is engaged in the service of the Lord, he should not be neglected. Whether he is born in family of a Brahmana or whether he is not born in a family of a Brahmana or a Goswami family, he should not be neglected, because ultimately it's the devotional service to the Lord. So many temples in Vrindavan and some other temples in India also, they have this culture of like generation after generation, the same generation continues to serve in the temple. That's very nice, but simultaneously we should not also be neglecting devotional service in some other areas where someone is performing, even though he might not be connected to your Brahmana family or a Goswami family. And that requires a broader vision and actually a preaching vision. In actuality, there cannot be a family of Goswamis based on material consideration. Prabhupada says there cannot be a family of Goswamis just on the material consideration of that he is born in that family. There cannot be. We can't take it like that. Just based on material consideration of birth or caste or heredity, one cannot be considered as a, because Prabhupada spoke about this Goswami term in the first verse of this NOI only. Who is a Goswami? The person who can control his senses nicely. The Goswami title is actually the monopoly of the pure devotees. If you remember, we discussed in the first verse of NOI, where Prabhupada said that the director of the temple in Vrindavan is actually was given this name as Goswami. So here also Prabhupada said the Goswami title is actually the monopoly of pure devotees. So every pure devotee who might not be having a Goswami title behind him is actually a Goswami because he is following very pure standards and worshipping Lord Krishna. Thus we speak of the six Goswami headed by Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami. Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami had practically become Mohammedans and had therefore changed their names to Dabir Khas and Sakar Malik. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself made them Goswamis. Very beautifully Prabhupada writes that it doesn't matter, even a person who was practicing and became like they were very much connected to the Mohammedans. They were made Goswamis of Vrindavan, and they were the people who actually brought Vrindavan again back on the instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So by this example, we see it's the only monopoly of pure devotees only. Therefore, the Goswami title is not hereditary. The Goswami who are descendants of Nityanand Prabhu and Sri Advaita Prabhu. So there are many sampradayas in Odisha also who are actually descendants of Nityanand Prabhu. They claim that they are descendants of Nityanand Prabhu. If you go to Siddha Bakul and other areas, you will find them. And they are descendants of Advaita Prabhu also. So they are certainly devotees. We can't say that they are not devotees. But devotees coming from other families should not be discriminated against them. Prabhupada writes, indeed, whether the devotee comes from a family of previous acharyas or from an ordinary family. So anyone coming from the previous acharyas families like Nityanand Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, Gadadhar Pandit, or any other acharyas, those who were married in Mahaprabhu Leela. So those who are coming in those sampradayas, or someone who took initiation from a Mahaprabhu in the time of Mahaprabhu, and then that sampradaya continued, or some family descendants are continuing. So yes, there we can say that they are devotees, but it should not be neglected that others can't practice and others can't come to such levels of devotion. They should also be treated nicely and equally. One should not think, oh, here is an American Swami, and discriminate against him. If you go to Vrindavan, there are many people, they say, they say, after such a long time, if you just catch a rickshaw there and people will say, Angrejo ke mandir jana hai. We want to go to a temple where many foreigners are there, or they don't know the name of the temple only. That's why they have written in the entrance only, welcome to Krishna Balram temple. At least people start speaking that name. This is Krishna Balram temple, because the main focus there is the worship of Supreme Lord in the form of Radha Shyam Sundar and Krishna Balramji. So we should not think in those terms. This is a very materialistic way of thinking. Here is an American Swami, here is an Russian Swami. This is not the way. And devotees who are practicing devotees, they don't discriminate in such ways. But a materialistic person, he does that. Here is a Nityananda Vansha Goswami. So someone might compare this. Oh, this is an American Goswami, this is a Nityananda Vansha Goswami. So he might be having more inclination towards this Nityananda Vansha Goswami. But it doesn't matter actually. What is internal inside the devotee, that matters. how he is practicing pure devotion. That is in whatever Vansha he is born in. There is an Prabhupada writes, there is an undercurrent of protest against our awarding the title Goswami to the American Vaishnavas of the Krishna conscious movement. So Prabhupada was given like in the Delhi, Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj is there, and some others. Anyone else recollects who has been given Goswami title? I can't recollect anyone who is having Goswami title in Krishna consciousness. Any names you can recollect?
Shri Gopalakrishna Goswami Maharaj.
One name I can recollect.
Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj.
Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. Thank you so much. Yeah, Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj.
Bhakti Tirtha Goswami Prabhu.
Bhakti Tirtha Goswami Maharaj. So in this way, Prabhupada is saying here, okay, there is an undercurrent of protest against our awarding the title Goswami to the American Vaishnavas of the Krishna consciousness movement. I hope you are enjoying it because I'm enjoying reading the purport thoroughly. So I hope you will also enjoy because in this Vaishnav Sangha we can very deeply we can understand, we can spend time and understand what Prabhupada has written. Sometimes people flatly tell the American devotees that their sannyas or title of Goswami is not bona fide. So imagine a new American Goswami. Prabhupada has initiated a sannyasi and is walking on the streets of Vrindavan. And some person who is having this conception of materialistic view, and he tells him that your sannyas is not bona fide because you're an American devotee. You have not taken birth in the family of a Goswami or a Brahmana. And in South India also, there are many places where they give sannyas to those people only who are actually born in a Brahmana family. So that culture is still they are following there. But discrimination should not be there. If you are following some culture, it's okay. But it's not the fact that someone else cannot perform bhakti at such levels and he can't be termed as Goswami. So sometimes people flatly tell the American devotees that the sannyas or title of Goswami is not bona fide. However, according to statements of Srila Rupa Goswami in this verse, which we are discussing today, Drishte Sabhavajanite Vapusaschado, an American Goswami and a Goswami in a family of Acharyas are non-different. They don't have any difference. American Goswami or Goswami in a family of Acharyas. Gopal Bhatt Goswami's family, that lineage is still continuing in Radharaman temple, and some other temples are also having such lineage, and family acharyas are there. Very strongly they follow also. But such comparison should not be there. On the other hand, a devotee who has attained the title of Goswami but is not born of a Brahmana father or a Goswami in the family of Nityananda or Advaita Prabhu should not be artificially puffed up by thinking that he has become a Goswami. So Prabhupada is correcting us also that one should not become puffed up by having a title of Goswami. He should always remember that as soon as he becomes materially puffed up, he immediately falls down. So this is instruction for everyone. Like a person who is practicing Krishna consciousness, anytime, like Radhanath Maharaj says, pride comes before fall. Before falling, pride automatically is there in the personality. So one should not be puffed up by anything, either materially gained or some other way, some skills or something. He should always remember that as soon as he becomes materially puffed up, he immediately falls down. Whether the title of Goswami will also not work if he's not practicing properly. This is very nicely said. This Krishna consciousness movement is a transcendental science, and there is no room for jealousy. This movement is meant for Paramhansas, who are completely free from all jealousy. So yes, this movement is meant for Paramhansas, but are we on the level of Paramhansas? Can I say that I am on the level of Paramahansas? Can you all say that you are on the level of Paramahansas? No, we are not there, but our aspiration is there. So there is no room of jealousy. So we are practicing in an environment where we are trying to remove this anartha from our heart and try to reach on that level where there is no jealousy. Paramam nirmatsanaram satam. So Vedyam Vastamatra Vastu Shivam. This is the initial verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam. As soon as one becomes envious, he falls from the platform of Paramahansa. If we consider the bodily defects of a Vaishnava, we should understand that we are committing an offense at the lotus feet of Vaishnava. And so many of our acharyas, Narottam Das Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, has written so many like songs glorifying Ebaro Karuna Karo Vaishnava Gosai. In this way, they have written so many songs glorifying Vaishnavas that without the mercy of Vaishnavas, one cannot advance in bhakti. So we should understand that we are committing an offense at the lotus feet of Vaishnava if we see the bodily defects. An offense at the feet of a Vaishnava is very serious. Indeed, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has described this offense as Hati Mata, the mad elephant offense. What does it mean by mad elephant offense? A mad elephant can create a disaster. So this offense to a Vaishnava is actually the biggest, should be the biggest worry for everyone. There might be some anarthas in our heart which we are struggling for like a lot of time, and we are struggling to control our senses, or some other anarthas are there. But it's okay to struggle with such anarthas, and it will take time. Like it's like a personal struggle. But like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is mentioning in his when he was speaking, and here Prabhupada is mentioning, offense to a Vaishnava, another Vaishnava who is very dear to Krishna, like you are struggling, he is also struggling. But if you create an offensive attitude towards each other, then it's called as mad elephant offense. A mad elephant can create a disaster, especially when it enters into the nicely trimmed garden. One should therefore be very careful. So nicely trimmed garden means a bhakti environment where the consciousness is very nicely pervading everywhere. But this mad elephant goes there because of his offensive mentality, creates a disaster. Therefore, be very careful not to commit any offense against a Vaishnava. What is that verse which comes that it's easy to like remove a line which is there on the mud, but it's very difficult to remove a line which is there on the stone. Narottam Das Thakur has sung that bhajan. I can't recollect now. Like Vaishnava offense is like you can't get over it. Only the Vaishnavas can only forgive you and pardon you. Then only you can get out of it that offense. One should therefore be very careful not to commit any offense against a Vaishnava. Every devotee should be ready to take instructions from a superior Vaishnava. A superior Vaishnava must be ready to help an inferior Vaishnava in all respects. Then Prabhupada writes, who is a superior one? If I say that I have to take instructions from a superior, who is the superior? One is superior or inferior according to his spiritual development in Krishna consciousness. So there might be some cases where you have authorities who are like superior or inferior based on this conception of, like Prabhupada is mentioning, spiritual development. But we have to respect everyone. We have to take their orders, or we have to take their instructions on our head, and we have to deal in a very like a devotee way. But we should understand who is more advanced in bhakti, and we should understand who is struggling to advance in bhakti. The person who is struggling to advance in bhakti, we can make relationship with him and help him in a way that he can also advance and we can also advance. The person who is already advanced in bhakti, he should try to take association in such a way that we make advancement in his association, and by his mercy, we can serve Krishna. So in this way, the person spiritual development matters. In this way, a person becomes superior or inferior. Inferior should be given full karuna. We should show our full karuna to him and respect his struggle. One is forbidden to observe the activities of pure Vaishnava from the materialistic point of view. From the neophyte, especially, considering a pure devotee from a material point of view is very injurious. So, this is the Prabhupada is saying who is superior and inferior. Going ahead, we experience such difficulty in propagating Krishna consciousness in this world. Prabhupada is speaking here. We experience such difficulty in propagating this Krishna consciousness all over the world. So if you remember when Prabhupada was there in India and he was struggling with this, he was staying in Gaudiya Mutt and so many people were there, so many devotees were there, and he was struggling to explain his concepts that he wants to go to America, fulfill the desire of Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. So here Prabhupada hints that also. Unfortunately, we are surrounded by neophyte God brothers who do not appreciate the extraordinary activities of spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. So there might be some situation where Prabhupada is getting letters or some conversations where his God brothers are not encouraging him or not appreciating his efforts. So he says, unfortunately, this is unfortunate situation. They can't see that he is the person who is actually spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world and fulfilling the desire of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the acharyas. They simply try to bring us to their platform. So in this way, we should also be very much cautious to associate with devotees. Devotees also. Like we are staying in devotees circle and we have associations. So we should also be, and Prabhupada God brothers were also devotees. They were practicing devotees, directly disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But here is Prabhupada is saying, they simply try to bring us to their platform and they try to criticize us in every respect. We very much regret their naive activities and poor fund of knowledge. Then Prabhupada says, an empowered person who is actually engaged in the confidential service of the Lord should not be treated as an ordinary human being. So Prabhupada is not telling directly that I am an empowered person, they should not offend me, but indirectly he is speaking about himself only, that I am actually the person who is actually fulfilling the desire of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, great acharyas, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has predicted Prithvi Ache Nirata Nagaradi Gram Sarvatra Prachar Hoive Moranam. So Prithvi doesn't mean this India only, it means the entire planet. So he is the empowered person who is actually engaged in the confidential service of the Lord. Although we know what confidential service Prabhupada did and everywhere Krishna consciousness was spread, but this Prabhupada is saying that I am the confidential person who is actually doing this job. So I should not be at least treated like an ordinary human being. For it is stated that unless one is empowered by Krishna, Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tara Pavartan. Unless one is empowered by Krishna, one cannot spread the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. When one thus criticizes a pure devotee, he commits an offense that is very obstructive and dangerous for those who desire to advance in Krishna consciousness. A person cannot derive any spiritual benefit when he offends the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. It is also an offense to consider an empowered Vaishnava an object of disciplinary action. Can someone highlight what you understand from this? Can anyone highlight me? Can someone make me understand what does it mean? That there is an empowered personality, there is empowered Vaishnava, so he should not be an object of disciplinary action. What does it mean by that? What does it mean? Can someone guess or someone say? You can unmute and say. You understood what I'm speaking about? I'm speaking about this line.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, this what I means the think about it is that means we cannot like many places it happens is that the means the disciplinary action means they have been not been allowed in the temples like in the Jagannath Puri temple. They don't allow the American Vaishnavas to come, so that is kind of a disciplinary action. If,
Okay, someone else can speak if they understand what they understand from this statement. It is an offense to consider an empowered Vaishnava an object of disciplinary action.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Yes.
This highly elevated devotees, if there are any aberrations which from our material perception or something, if we are visualizing, we should not consider to take action or curtail his activities or something like that.
Okay. So I will give you one hint. Prabhupada is speaking about his activities of preaching in the West, and his God brothers are criticizing him. And there are many things which Prabhupada is doing there which were not done in India, and it was considered as not to be done by a sannyasi. So now you can guess what this disciplinary action is. What activities Prabhupada did in the West which were considered not like in India, those people were criticizing or were not understanding properly what Prabhupada was doing there. Like
Initiating people are giving
initiating
diksha
foreigners.
who are not born in the Brahminical families or something.
Yeah, who are not born in the Brahminical family, initiating those people, performing yagyas and performing marriages there. So many things Prabhupada did. So Prabhupada is speaking, see, Prabhupada doesn't, this is the greatness of like Prabhupada, he doesn't say that I am doing that. He is an empowered Vaishnava who is doing so many activities outside in the West. So it's an offense when you say that this can't be done, this can't be done, how can he do that? Never happened in Indian culture. So such disciplinary actions, they can't understand that how Prabhupada is actually fulfilling the desire of like great acharyas and Mahaprabhu. So he performed marriages, he gave diksha to even Brahmana diksha to many of the people who were staying there, who were just chanting for 6 months or 1 year. So they can't understand, and they can't understand his compassion, and they can't understand the emergency of the situation. So in this way, there are many discipline and or in present sentence in present scenarios also, like I can say that whenever some great Vaishnava is there, like you are visiting a temple and you know that Maharaj is there in the temple and Maharaj is there in his room, but you go to Mangala Aarti and Maharaj doesn't come there, or some senior Vaishnava, leave about Maharaj, or some senior Vaishnava is there and he's performing very nice services and going and preaching everywhere, but you see him that he's not coming to Mangal Aarti, and you are there and you're thinking, oh, that Prabhuji didn't came to Mangal Aarti, or that Gurudev or some other personality didn't came to Mangal Aarti. We should understand that he is an empowered Vaishnava, and this disciplinary action of an institution that everybody has to come and attend these programs in the morning, that is very much necessary for sadhakas to uplift their consciousness. But it doesn't matter that he's not coming for 1 or 2 Mangal Aartis or some not attending some programs. We might offense in such ways also. Is my concept clear, or you have some comments on this?
Yes,
Clear,
Prabhu, it
Prabhuji.
is clear. It is clear.
It is offensive to try to give him advice. These last statements are actually, these 4 statements are very beautiful, and one should focus more and more on these 4 statements. It is offensive to try to give him advice or to correct him. So, what Prabhupada was doing at that time, some person might try to give him advice or try to correct him. So Prabhupada is saying it is offensive actually to try to give some advice when a person is very much clear about his vision. A pure devotee who is very clear about his vision, one should not try to impose over advice or do some corrections to him. Another statement Prabhupada says, one can distinguish between a neophyte Vaishnava and an advanced Vaishnava by their activities. The advanced Vaishnava is always situated as the spiritual master, and the neophyte Vaishnava is always considered as his disciple. So this is the last sentence of this purport. The spiritual master must not be subjected to the advice of a disciple, and nor should a spiritual master be obliged to take instruction from those who are not his disciples. Prabhupada says the spiritual master must not be subjected to the advice of his disciples. It's a greatness of a spiritual master that he comes and asks you for some suggestions. To a disciple, he comes and asks, "Do you have some suggestions or some advice?" It is the greatness of a spiritual master. What is the compassion that he is including us in his vision also? But it's not the matter that he is subjected to whatever advice we have given, he has to follow only. The spiritual master must not be subjected to the advice of a disciple, nor a spiritual master be obliged to take instruction from those who are not his disciples. So in this way, this is the sum and substance of Srila Rupa Goswami's advice in the 6th verse. So we'll recite the verse again once more, and then we'll take some questions. Or I will introduce to the 7th verse. We'll discuss for 5-10 minutes, then we will take some questions. So last time we had decided this verse. Rishte sabhav janite vakusascha doshe na prakritattvamiha bhakta janasya pashe gangambasam na khalu budbudapena panke brahma dravatvam apagacchati niradharme. So this is the 6th verse. Let's go to 7th verse. स्यात् कृष्ण नाम चरितादिसिताप्त विद्या पीतोपतप्त रसनस्य नरोचिकानु किन्तु आदरात् अनुदिनं खलु सेव जुष्टा स्वाद्विक्रमात् भवति तद्गदमूलहन्त्री. The holy name, character, pastimes and activities of Krishna are all transcendently sweet like sugar candy. So if you see the link in the previous verse, it was mentioned that one should be very careful in associating with a devotee, pure devotee, not seeing him from a materialistic point of view. So in this verse, when that pure devotee actually gives his association and you get a transcendental holy name to chant, but when we get this holy name and when we hear the pastimes of Krishna, the effect will come slowly, because our consciousness is afflicted by jaundice of avidya. So this verse is speaking about this. Pito patapta rasanasya nanochikanu kintu adarat. Adarat means very carefully. Anudinam, every day. Prabhupada translates 24 hours a daily. Anudinam, khalu seva jushta. One should consume these subject matters of Krishna consciousness. Swadvi kramat bhavati tad gad moola hantri. Slowly, these topics will become relishable. So reading the translation again, the next time we will again discuss the purport. I hope you like discussing the purport, because there were very beautiful points. Prabhupada has invested so many topics. I could have made slides also, but I thought I should discuss these Prabhupada statements in very detail. So reading the translation, the holy name, character, pastimes and activities of Krishna are all transcendently sweet like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya cannot taste anything sweet, it is wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within his tongue, and his disease is gradually destroyed at the root. So that's what sadhana bhakti is and what we are practicing daily. That we are trying to carefully chant holy names so that sweetness awakens in our heart and we can relish that sweetness. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the third verse also, Nigam kalpataror galitam phalam shukamukhadamrita davya samyutam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhur aho rasika bhuvi bhavuka. Those who are rasikas, those who are acquainted about the taste of spiritual topics, they can relish more and more. And in today Bhagavatam class also in the morning we discuss how these topics becomes more and more interesting. Swadu Swadu Krame Krame. They become more and more interesting when we hear Krishna Katha. So this is the this verse is explaining about like we have to do. There are three important words: Adarat Anudinam Swatvi Kramat Bhavati. So one has to carefully every day. This has to be done. It's a practice of everyday practice, not like we have done something spiritual 1 month back, again we are doing 1 month back. So every day it has to be done. 24 hours we can have consciousness of Krishna, do some activities which are related to Krishna, service to Krishna, or even working in offices we can hear and read something. So in this way, slowly, slowly this will happen. The jaundice of avidya will go and we can gain some relish. Thank you so much. If someone has some question, they can ask.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, I wanted to clarification on the second last point that you discussed of text number 6. You
Okay.
said that advanced devotee is always situated in the as a spiritual master, right? And his disciples are neophyte devotees.
Hmm.
So, like, I was just trying to link it with the text number 5, and
Okay.
I got confused.
Okay. So what is happening actually? You will see many places the Kanishta definition and Madhyama definition and Uttama definitions will change. Like in Bhagavatam, there is a different definition of Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama. And one time when Mahaprabhu was asked, like in the we discussed in the previous like lecture, that what is the definition of a devotee? So Mahaprabhu said, whoever is chanting Hare Krishna, I will pay my obeisances to him. And in this way, there are different definitions. Many places it keeps changing in terms of Kanishta and Madhyama. So here Prabhupada was mentioning in a way that those who are situated as spiritual masters, they should be considered very pure because they have reached to certain level of very high purity. And then a person termed as neophyte, it is termed as neophyte. It doesn't mean that he's just started his bhakti, but the other person is very much advanced and this person is advancing maybe at this level, maybe at this level, or very basic level. So all this category has together called as neophyte. So you should not think that neophyte means the person who has just started and is an advanced person is only the spiritual master. And spiritual master can also be many. One can be like a guiding spiritual master, one can be Diksha spiritual master. In this way, there can be many spiritual master also. The person who guides you, the person who protects you in bhakti. In this way, there can be many. And we should also have this mode only that I am a neophyte only. We should maintain this mode only. Even if we are advancing very nicely, we should have this mode that we are on the neophyte only. And other devotees or other our parampara is very advanced and we should take shelter in this mode. So my understanding on this is this only, that there are different definitions and this is the mode we should have. You have some clarification or further comments?
Cleared. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Anyone else has some comments or questions? Okay, thank you so much for joining, taking out your time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Very
Thank you.
good.
Dhanavad Pranam.
Dandot Pranam Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna.